Hello, friend. Welcome in Study with Money session. And today our topic is Manage Identity and why we are using in Azure Cloud. So now we want to understand what is Manage Identity. So in if we are going in IT development, software development, so generally we want to connect one resource to another resource. And for when we are connecting from one resource to another resource, we need to expose the credentials where we want to connect. And we need to, those credentials we are using into the first resource. And via that, we can make the connection between the two resources and we can connect it. But the problem is in the security because that is not the good way you should expose the connection or security or critical information into the resources. So for that reason, Microsoft suggested better to expose the credential, you should use the managed identity. So what is happening in Azure Cloud when we want to connect from one Azure resource to another Azure resource, we are using managed identity. And this managed identity helps not to expose any credentials to anywhere, just to use the identity and provide those identity a sufficient privilege so that that identity can helps to connect one resource to another resource and without any without any security threat we can able to connect one Azure resource to another resources. So there are the two type of managed identity available. First is system assigned managed identity, another is user assigned managed identity. So now we can see that how the managed identity, what type of manage, what where generally we are using managed identity in real time scenarios, like when we are creating a virtual machine or app services, Azure Data Factories, Azure Kubernetes, Azure Logic App, Azure Function, or there are so many Azure resources which want to connect to another Azure resources like Azure Key Vault, Azure Storage, Azure SQL. So in that time, we we can use the managed identity to connect one Azure resources to another Azure resources so that without any expose of credentials, we can access one Azure to another Azure resources. Now we want to understand what difference in system assigned managed identity and user assigned managed identity. So in it is if in a system assigned managed identity, you can see that in use Azure resource 1 wants to connect Azure resource 2. So Azure resource 1, we can it work like a managed identity and provide this key on that storage on this then on this Azure resources, Azure second Azure resources, so that it can access it. So Azure resource one become like a managed identity, and this managed identity we provide access to this particular Azure resources so that he can access. So what will happen? So whenever we will delete this Azure resource one, this managed identity will automatically remove it because it is associated with this Azure resource only. Now we are going into the user assigned. User assigned identity, one wants to connect to the Azure 2. So what will happen? We are creating a user assigned managed identity which is totally independent to this resource. We are just in this key we have give access to the resource 2, and when it get access, after that we are giving access to this key we are giving associate with this Azure 1, so that Azure 1 have a link with this key, this which is called the managed identity, and then user 1, then Azure resource 1 can connect to the Azure 2 without any expose. So here here the only difference is this is not this is totally independent. It is not directly associated. It is we are creating this managed identity totally independent. So what will happen if even though this Azure 1 will delete, this managed identity will not be removed. So it will still be there in the Azure resources only. So if we want to delete it, we have to explicitly go to the Azure resource and we can delete it. And the benefit is here, if you want to connect more resources, we need to just link it because this key have already access. We need to create one few more resources. We need to just connect it. So advantage is here. No need to create again more keys into the system. We need to just one system. We need to just connect to the more Azure resources. But here the advantages or disadvantages, it is tightly associated with one particular Azure resources only. Now you can see in the system assigned managed identity example is here, like Azure Active Directory wants to connect Azure Blob Storage. In Azure Blob Storage, want to access. So what will happen in here, Azure Active Directory will work like a managed identity. And in this managed identity, we need to give access to this Azure storage. And with this particular key, we'll get access here so that now this Azure Active Directory will get access on this Azure blob storage and it can access it without exposing any credentials. Now, when we are going into the user assigned managed identity, we will create a separate key managed identity which is not associated to any Azure resources, and we will just give access on this particular Azure blob storage so that this particular key can access. And now later on, as many as resources we want to connect who wants to get access on this Azure blob storage, we need to just associate with those resources and they can access it. So only thing is here, we need to no need to create again and again more keys into the system, and we need to just utilize reusability can work here. Now we can see it here. There is one example which is Microsoft available in Microsoft portal. That is, Logic app wants to connect a storage account. So manage identity we will create into the Azure Active Directory, and in this manage identity have access on the storage, and this manage identity get access on the blob storage, which are either it is a user or it is a system. So in that manage identity helps to connect Logic app to a storage account without any credentials. And what will happen if any user wants to access Logic app will facilitate a storage account without sharing any credentials. So this is the advantage in the managed identity. Managed identity is the helping to secure our system without sharing any credentials. So that is the way why it is important in Azure cloud development. So now we will go for demo to understand on deeper level that how we can go for system assigned or user assigned managed identity will work. I hope you will get more understanding with this demo. So friend, now we are seeing demo. In this demo, we will see that I have already created one resource group. In this resource group, we have a two component. One is Azure Active Directory, Azure Data Factory, and other is Azure Storage Account. So what we want to see it here, how the system managed identity we are creating it, and how by that we can link to storage account. So you can go here in Azure Active Directory, and you will see on the left side there is one section which is Manage Identity. Here, when you will click it, you will find there are two options are available. One is system assigned, another is user assigned. So when you are using the user assigned, as per the tutorial, as per the discussion we happened, this particular Azure data factory will work like identity, and we need to give access onto the storage account so that this will connect to the data factory. So now we will go back to this storage, the same identity. First we need to enable it on, and now we'll go here go to the storage account. In this storage account, there is one IAM access. Here, you will go here, go to the add role. In add role, you will go here in storage, blob, data contributor. You will click it here. Now you can click here in manage identity. You will go here. You will find this is our system assigned. You will find this storage account, which is the name is same. This will work like you have to select and you have to select you. So now this manage identity, this system assigned manage identity have a storage blob data contributor. And now you will click it here and you have to select it. So what will happen? This manage identity will get access on this particular on this particular storage account. Now I need to go here on onto the data factory section, and here I have already linked here the Azure data factory with this, and now we will see system assigned. I want only CC, and which section I want to connect in here. It is system assigned. I want to check it. So we need to wait. So now I clicked it here and I found that it is connected. So that is the way how we linked one from the system identity to Azure Data Factory to storage account. So now we can go here. You can find it here that this is here. So now I want to use this system user assign. So how we can do that? So we will first go here, manage identity, and in this manage identity we will create this particular resource group where it is we have created in North America. It's a demo mg identity. I have just given some name. You can see that it is creating inside the. So this is created. Now we can go back to the demo user ID. Okay. We can just save it here. I'm going back to the Azure resource group. So we can see it here in this Azure Data Factory. In this manage identity, I just want to add a new group. Okay, so you can see that it is already available because that is the only user manage identity available here. So I need to just add it here. So the resource group, the manage identity which we have just now we have created user assigned manage identity. I linked with Azure Data Factory. Now this key which I have created now in this it should have access on the storage account. So what I can do it here. Now I will go back to here. Now we will go it here in the Azure resource group. In this storage, go to the here we will give the access, add resource. Now we need to give to the storage blob this manage identity. I need to select here not system. I want the user assigned. This give the access. So this user manage identity have a storage blob data contributor. This. Now it is created. Okay. Before giving the access, we have already given the access. So now okay. So now I'm creating with user assigned storage. Here I will choose user assigned and the subscription is this, storage account is this. When creating a credentials new, and it is a user assigned, subscription is this. Credential means using the managed identity. It's not like a credentials of any storage. So yeah. So yeah. So you can see that manage using the managed identity, I'm able to connect to from blob from Azure Data Factory to blob storage. So this is the way how managed identity is working without any credentials, without any exposing the resources credentials to one to another, and for the security point of view, managed identity is very useful, very handy. Thank you to everyone. I hope you enjoyed.